Have you ever stopped to think about what's right under you? I mean, right now, under the floorboards. For a lot of us, there's a dark, dusty, and forgotten space. The crawl space. It's not quite a basement. Definitely not a place you'd hang out in. A hollow void filled with pipes, dirt, things we'd rather not think about. Spiders, maybe a mouse or two. But what if there's something else down there? Something that isn't supposed to be there. They are part of our homes, yet they feel completely alien. Dark, cramped, air stale, smelling of damp earth and secrets. That weird feeling you get when you think someone is watching you, but no one is there. It's a space designed for function, not for people. Yet sometimes people find their way in, and that's when things get really, really scary. That faint scratching, that subtle thump. It might not be the house settling, it might not be the pipes. It could be coming from a place you own but have never truly explored. A place just a few feet below where you sleep, where you eat, where you live your life, completely unaware. Today we are going to talk about 3 stories, and I have to tell you, these stories are true. They are about people who discovered that their crawl space wasn't just holding up their house, it was holding a terrifying secret. These are the kinds of stories that make you want to seal up every vent and nail every board shut. Let's get into it. Our first story takes us to a small town called Oakhurst, California. It's a peaceful place, nestled near the Sierra National Forest. This is where a young couple, Mark and Amber, bought their first home. It was a dream come true. A cute, rustic-style house with character. A little old, sure, but perfect for them. They spent weeks painting, decorating, making it their own. But it didn't take long for them to notice things, little things at first. Amber would come home and find the pantry door slightly ajar. A box of crackers would be open. A can of soup would be missing. At first, she blamed Mark. He'd laugh and say it wasn't him. They thought maybe it was forgetfulness. Moving is stressful, right? But then blankets disappeared, only to reappear weeks later in the back of a closet. It was weird. It was unsettling. Then came the sounds. In the dead of night, they'd hear a faint scratching, as if from inside the walls. They called an exterminator, thinking it was rats or squirrels. He checked the attic, the crawl space, everywhere. No droppings, no nests, nothing. He shrugged. Some old houses just make noise. But the sounds didn't stop. Mark and Amber started to feel like they were going crazy. The breaking point came one chilly Tuesday morning. Mark was getting ready for work when he noticed the crawl space hatch was different. It was a simple square of wood. He remembered it being covered in dust and cobwebs, but now it looked clean, too clean, scratch marks around the edge, fresh. His heart pounded. He called for Amber. She came and saw it too. That was it. She refused to stay another night until they knew what was going on. Mark grabbed the heaviest flashlight he could find and a tire iron from the car. Hands shaking, he paused at the hatch. He pulled the hatch open. A wave of cold, musty air washed over them. It smelled awful, like stale sweat and garbage. The beam cut through thick, dusty air, revealing pipes, dirt. At first, nothing out of the ordinary. Just insulation and old boxes. Then his light landed on a pile of blankets. Their missing blanket. Nearby, a small stack of their missing food items. Empty cracker boxes, cans of soup with lids peeled back, a makeshift bed, a nest, stained pillows, a tattered sleeping bag, a few books taken from their bookshelf. Someone had been living under their house, under their feet, all this time. It all clicked into place in the most horrifying way possible. They called the police. Officers arrived and searched the house, the yard, the neighborhood. They found more: empty water bottles, a small bucket used as a toilet, signs someone had been there for weeks, maybe months. But they didn't find him. It was like he had vanished into thin air. The police suggested a transient who'd found a place to hide. They secured the hatch, advised changing locks, installed alarms, and nailed the hatch shut. For a while, life returned to a fragile normal. But the peace was gone. Weeks later, small things started happening again. A garden tool moved, a window unlocked, subtle enough to doubt yourself. One evening, Amber glimpsed a pale, gaunt face at the kitchen window. She screamed. He was still there, watching. Mark installed motion-activated cameras hidden in bushes and trees. For 2 nights, nothing. Then, on the 3rd night, at 3:17 a.m., a figure emerged from the dense bushes at the edge of their property. Thin, gaunt, dressed in ragged clothes. He walked up to the living room window and stood, watching for over 10 minutes. The footage was grainy, but his face was clear. Mark felt sick. They took the footage to the police. The police recognized him. a local drifter with a history of mental health issues and minor offenses. An alert was put out. A few days later, police found him trying to pry open another house's crawlspace just a few blocks away. He was arrested and later sent for psychiatric evaluation. Mark and Amber sold the house. They couldn't stay. The memory was etched into the walls and foundation. The chilling part, police found a small worn notebook. Inside, he had recorded details about them. What time they left for work, what they ate for dinner. He wasn't just living under them, he was studying them. They never knew how long he had been there. Sometimes the most terrifying things are not monsters from a story. They're the people living in the dark under our feet. And that was the man in the walls. Our next story takes us across the country to the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. In 2011, the Millers, a family of 4, moved into a sprawling Victorian home that looked like a postcard. The house had a large stone-lined crawlspace, accessible through a heavy wooden door in the cellar. The previous owners said it was sealed, and mentioned an old capped well down there. A few weeks after moving in, 8-year-old Leo and 6-year-old Maya started playing a new game. They called it the whisper game. They would whisper near the cellar door and giggle, then whisper something back. When Sarah asked who they were talking to, they'd smile and say, "The new friend." They said the friend didn't have a name, that he lived downstairs and talked through the floor. At first Tom shrugged it off. Kids have imaginary friends. But Sarah couldn't shake a prickle of unease. The whispering began to happen at night, faint, hushed tones in the darkness. One afternoon, while doing laundry in the cellar, Sarah heard a faint, rasping whisper coming from behind the heavy cellar door. It wasn't pipes, it was a voice. She checked the whole house. It was empty. She went back down, flashlight trembling in hand, and creaked open the door to a cold, musty space. In the center of the crawl space was a low circular stone well, heavy concrete cap, supposedly sealed for over a century. Tom knocked. It was solid. He searched carefully. Nothing. No footprints. No signs of anyone. He came back up and told Sarah it was sealed. But the whispering continued. A few days later, Sarah found a crayon drawing under Leo's bed, their house, and beneath it a dark circle. The well. In the drawing, a small stick figure stood next to the well, and squiggly lines pointed to the figure's ear. It was a picture of someone listening. Sarah went to the library and dug through old records and microfiche for hours. She found a 1902 newspaper, "Local boy missing, feared lost in well." The article described a 7-year-old boy who vanished and was never found. The well was capped, the house later sold. The tragedy stayed with that place. Sarah printed the article and rushed home. Tom read it and went pale. The whispering wasn't imaginary. It was an echo, a lingering energy tied to the well. They never heard the whispers again after that day. It was as if uncovering the truth brought some peace to the restless spirit. They held a small private memorial for the boy, Daniel, whose name they discovered. The house felt lighter afterward, but they never forgot the whispers from below. Some crawl spaces don't hide monsters in the classic sense. They hide tragedies, echoes of lives cut short, and sometimes all it takes is listening to set things right. We come now to our final story. Our final story takes us to Port Townsend, Washington, a historic seaport known for Victorian houses and foggy streets. In the late 1990s, Frank bought a large, dilapidated Victorian. He was a handyman who loved restoring old houses. The house had a long, damp crawl space running the building's length. It made soft rattling noises at night like beads clacking. Frank shrugged it off as mice. But things grew stranger. Tools moved, closed doors found slightly ajar, a radio turned to face the wall. A small radio he'd left playing was turned off and angled to face the wall. Small, deliberate gestures, enough to make a man uneasy. He felt watched. He wasn't easily spooked, but he couldn't ignore the sense that something wanted his attention. Finally, he decided to investigate. He opened a small access panel and crawled in with a work light and crowbar. Cold, damp earth beneath his knees. Thick cobwebs. The beam of his light swept 20 feet to a shadowed corner and a small wooden crate. Curiosity pushed him closer. He pried the crate open. Inside, dozens of old porcelain dolls, glass eyes staring back. Paint chipped, faces cracked, some with missing limbs. But the worst was yet to reveal itself. Peering through a crack, he saw something impossible. Teeth. Human teeth lodged inside hollow doll bodies. Frank scrambled back, the flashlight tipping, darkness swallowing the crawl space. The faint rattling now became a chorus, porcelain jaws clicking and clacking all around him. He found the flashlight and scrambled out faster than he ever had. He slammed the access panel and shoved a dresser in front of it, panting in the hallway. He couldn't bear living in a house with that under it. But who would hide such things under a floor? He called a friend. Together, with gloves and work lights, they returned to the darkness to remove the crate and its contents. They removed dolls one by one, each heavy with more than porcelain. Inside some, locks of hair, yellowed child photographs. They weren't toys, they were effigies. They drove to a remote clearing and burned them in a large bonfire. The painted faces melted and the porcelain cracked in the flames. Watching the embers rise, they felt a release, like lifting a weight from the house. The next day, the house felt quiet, empty. The rattling never returned. He never found out who put the dolls there, and he never wanted to know. He sealed the hatch and tried to move on, but the memory lingered. An unresolved, haunted curiosity he didn't want to dig into. And that was Frank's discovery. A man living in the walls, an echo from a capped well, a crate of tooth-filled dolls. These are not just stories, they're reminders that the floor beneath our feet can hide things we never imagined. So the next time you hear a scratch, a thump, a whisper, ask yourself, are you ready to find out what lies beneath? If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more true Crawlspace horror. Good night, and don't forget to check under your floorboards.